Welcome to Heart Health Month, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Health and Wellness 360 with tfal&chi. And as you're joining us today, can you just let us know where you're joining us from, where you're dialing in from? If you're in Michigan, if you're in Australia, if you're in Japan, just let us know. If you're in Nigeria, we would love to know, right?
Yes, thank you for joining us. Yes, so today we have a lot packed into our 30 minutes, and so we're going to get right started. Today we're going to talk about heart health.
Yeah.
And February is Heart Health Month. We talk about this every year. Valentine's Day is this month.
Yes.
It's important to take care of your heart. So no perfect time, but now to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about heart disease, some of the symptoms of heart disease, what you need to know, but also steps you can do to prevent heart disease and to optimize your health. Thank you so much for joining us. So happy Health Month. So before we get started, I'd just like to introduce myself for those of you who are joining us for the first time. My name is tfal. I'm an infectious disease physician, board certified, a professor of medicine, an author, a podcaster, and a wellness coach. And I am the other half of tfal&chi, and I'm joined by my husband, Chi.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And I'm Chi, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, and I'm healthcare director. I'm also a licensed mental health practitioner. I'm a wellness coach, food and nutrition expert. So all things health and wellness is what we do on our show. We're super excited to have you guys join us today. And we're going to have a very engaging conversation. So if you have questions throughout the show, just pop them in there. And we'd love to hear from you on what your thoughts are about what we're sharing with you today. So tfal, I'm going to ask you, why is heart health such an important topic, or just the importance of keeping your heart healthy?
Correct.
Why is this such an important topic?
Yeah, so we're so glad, February is Heart Health Month, because it is such an important topic, because heart disease is a leading cause of death in the United States, and increasingly worldwide, one of the top causes of death. And it is in the US for women and for men, a leading cause of death. More than 600,000 people die every year in the US of heart disease. And coronary artery disease, which is blockages of the heart, occur. More than 300,000 people die of that every year. For Black people, more than 50,000 Black women, this is very, very personal, more than 50,000 Black women die every year of heart disease in the United States. And the thing about it is, a lot of us don't know. So a recent survey was done by the American Heart Association. Only 1 in 10 women knew that heart disease was our leading cause of death. So we need to bring awareness. Awareness is the first part of getting this done. So it's very important. Big cause of death. We don't really talk about it. We need to know about it.
So actually, before I jump into my, the next segment of this is, Abiola, thank you for joining us. Saw you pop in there from Atlanta. So thank you for joining us, Abiola. So
I'm going to ask you then. So we've talked about why it's such an important topic. So how does heart disease impact our lives?
Of course, in addition to the, being the leading cause of death, actually. So think about this in terms of cost, over $360 billion spent just managing heart disease. And this is not even all the comorbid issues that come with heart disease. Productivity goes down. You don't feel your best self. There's so many, a myriad of things that impact your life, just the way you do things on a daily basis. You can't even exercise because your heart is not able to pump enough oxygen and blood to make you do the things you like to do. So across the board, there's a myriad of things that having heart disease impacts your life in such a significant way. Think about this for a moment, right? Across the world, they have over 80 million people that die of this disease every day. 2 seconds every time of the day, someone drops of heart disease. 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, someone drops across the world from heart disease. That's huge. That's really huge. And you think about it, that your heart is the size of your fist. So if you make a fist, that's the size of your heart, right? And you think about, all the work it has to do to move us around. So the more weight we carry around, our heart is literally working a lot harder to do the things it's supposed to do, and hence we get into trouble with other things. But I'm going to ask you, in terms of what are the symptoms of heart attack and the differences between men and women, because I know men and women present a little differently.
Yes.
So as a male and a female, what do we need to look out for when we begin to experience some of those symptoms?
Symptoms of heart attack.
Yeah.
And so, heart disease is very varied, and coronary artery disease is the one that really causes a heart attack. So the heart disease, some people have problems with their heart valve, some people have problems with the heart muscle and develop heart failure. But coronary artery disease is kind of what we talk about, a heart attack, which is when you have a stroke, that's kind of an attack in the brain. But the commonest symptoms are usually chest pain, chest discomfort, chest tightness, chest pressure, different ways of talking about that, because that's really an oxygen supply and demand issue, right? If the arteries are blocked for whatever reason, and we'll talk about that, when the heart needs to do more, it's not getting enough blood flow, people present with pain and tightness, right?
Let me stop you for a minute. You said when the heart has to do more. Why does it have to do more? There has to be a nexus. Can you make that connection? Why does the heart have to do more? And then what happens when it has to do more?
It's when people have to exercise, you're climbing upstairs, your demand, because when you're sitting and resting, there's a certain amount of blood flow supplying the heart. When you have to do more, climb upstairs, do a walk, shovel snow. That's why sometimes you see people who are very sedentary, all of a sudden it's a snowstorm, they get out there to shovel snow, they get a heart attack because their arteries are blocked and they can't meet that demand, or a lot of smoking. So chest pain, chest tightness, shortness of breath. Some people describe pain that starts in the middle of the chest, going down the arm, going up the neck, and all that. So those are the commonest symptoms in men and women. However, women may also present with certain things that are a little different. So chest pain is still the most common symptom or discomfort, but women may present with nausea, feeling like it's just indigestion, cold sweat, tiredness. So all of these things are the reasons why women present later when they have a heart attack. They don't think it's going on. Women don't think that heart disease is such a big deal. They don't know it's our #1 killer. And some of those symptoms may feel like indigestion, a little bit of I'm tired, a little bit of a cold sweat. So bottom line is to know those symptoms, to know your body, and if something feels different, to call 911, because every time you delay, in terms of 30-minute delay, can cost you a whole year of your life, or even more, increase your risk of death. So more women die after a heart attack than men.
Than men do, right? So more women actually are at the risk. Is that correct?
They're at risk, and then they also don't know the symptoms.
That's correct.
Plus, sometimes in healthcare, sometimes they present, and even the people in healthcare are like, oh, it's just stress. Oh, it's just a little bit of indigestion. So bottom line is to know, we'll talk about some of the risk factors, if you have risk factors for heart disease. And when something doesn't feel right, call 911, know your body, because heart disease is very under-recognized. If I sound very passionate, it's because women, we don't really think about heart disease. We think about other things.
And it's important to know your body.
Yes.
The minute something seems off, you don't need anyone to tell you, because this is about you. Your body is a temple, and so you should treat it as such, right? The minute something seems off, it's important you treat that temple the way it should, to get care for it as soon as you should. Think about it. Just like we're driving our car every day, and you're in your car and you hear a certain sound, you're like, oh, I need to take it into the dealership or into the shop, right? The same thing. We need to know your numbers. That's very important. Getting your physical, knowing your numbers, super important. But outside of that, if something feels awkward, it doesn't feel the same, see your doctor, your practitioner right away, or get to an ER or urgent care to have it checked out.
And I have the next question for you as we're talking. And I saw Renee come up and say, what can we do? We're going to talk about prevention. Thank you for that question. Renee from Chicago, thank you for that question. But what you brought up around also just knowing when something doesn't feel right.
Correct.
1 out of every 5 heart attacks is silent. So people don't even know that a part of their heart already got, poor blood supply. And then they think back to it like, oh yeah, there was a time I had a little bit of indigestion. So knowing your body is really important, knowing the symptoms and knowing that heart disease does happen in women, and it is the commonest cause of death for women.
Right.
So I was going to ask you,
Sure.
we've been talking about this Fab Five and talking about five. Why do these five matter, especially in the context of Heart Health Month that we're talking about now?
Of course, because trying to know exactly what your risk factors are. No smoking. Smoking is a huge one. Understanding your waist circumference, understanding your blood glucose numbers, understanding what your cholesterol numbers are. All those are super important. The risk factors, if they're out of the norm, if your cholesterol is out of the norm and is high, then think about it. Your arteries are like, pipes in your body, right? And if you begin to build plaque from the way we eat and lack of exercise, that artery continues to close and close and close versus staying open. So the idea of having good nutrition and exercise, think about having a sponge going through a pipe. That's what good nutrition does, especially high fiber foods. When you eat high fiber foods, it goes through those arteries, cleans them out so that your digestion is good and you don't have plaque building up along your artery walls. So understanding what your risk factors are is very, very important. And think about this again. Your heart beats about 70 beats a minute. 70 beats a minute, right? And it starts right before you were born to the very minute that we actually expire. It continues to work. This is an organ that is super important, and we cannot have it work a different way. Just we can manage our knees as if we have knee pain, and we can manage and we can get around it. But if we have, our heart beating out of sync or something, that is big time trouble. Big time trouble, and it's very important to stay ahead of this. Exercising well, eating right, mindfulness, yoga, and the different things you can do to mitigate that.
Awesome. So, yes, and we'll spend a little bit more time talking about prevention at the end. So this is really good about those risk factors, about our blood sugar, blood pressure, smoking, diabetes, and also for people who've had, for women, as additional, if you had gestational diabetes, which was diabetes during pregnancy, it increases your risk of heart disease.
Correct.
If you had preeclampsia, so those are some things for women that increase your risk, but smoking and all those things. So it's important to know your numbers.
Sure.
And so,
So what should someone with heart disease do, for instance? Because before you go into your next segment, if someone has heart disease or the symptoms, can you share with the audience, what should they do? Should they follow up with who and what specialist? Can you share that with us?
Yes. So obviously, like we talked about, in the emergent setting, if you're having any kind of chest pain, shortness of breath, call 911. But we're going to talk a lot about prevention. But in someone who already has heart disease, either coronary artery disease, heart failure, or any kind of heart disease, it's important to continue to follow up with both your primary care doctor and a cardiologist if you've been assigned a cardiologist. There are other tests they may need to do, an electrocardiogram, an echocardiogram, an angiogram to see what extent of your heart disease. They will have you on medications, right? Medications to either lower your cholesterol levels so that the artery has blood flowing well, or medications to reduce inflammation, or things to thin out the blood. They're going to have you on things to make sure your blood pressure is well controlled and all that. So it's important that if you already have established heart disease, to continue to follow up, continue to be aware of any symptoms, ask questions, but also in addition to whatever is being prescribed, work on your lifestyle. So that's what we talk about with secondary prevention, which is you already have what we talk about, but how do you continue to work on your lifestyle? So any good PCP or cardiologist will say, yes, we're prescribing this. However, your nutrition, smoking, all of these things have to come in place. So it's important to stay in care, stay engaged. Don't just say, well, I feel good today, so I'm going to skip my cholesterol medicine. I'm going to skip my blood thin. Whatever is prescribed, the tests have been done, but also continue to work on lifestyle, which is going to pivot us.
And before we even go to that one, but I just want to mention, junk food is a huge piece of increase in heart disease, right? Junk food is big, one of the biggest risk factors when it comes to junk food. Drinking soda, eating junk food and fast foods, it would accelerate your your probability to get heart disease. So it's very important when we talk about lifestyle, right?
Yes.
Being able to understand that exercise is very important, and exercise could be, anything that allows you to elevate your heart rate, that, is very important. Be it dancing, be it yoga, mindfulness, taking a walk, but it has to be consistent. Not taking a walk today and waiting until next week to do another one. It has to be consistent. Taking walks, exercising. If you have the ability to get to a gym and do that as well. If you dance like my wife is, she loves to dance all the time. Keep dancing is important. So anything that allows you to actually elevate your heart rate and make you do that is very important to mitigate the impact of heart disease, or even to even get it at all. So lifestyle is huge, and that's why we teach it.
Yes.
As tfal&chi.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
And so if we have any questions, please pop them in.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do in this second half, so we've talked about why heart disease is so important, the cost to us, not just on our quantity of life, but the kind of quality of life. We've talked about the symptoms and the risk factors of obesity, diabetes, and things like that. We want to now talk really about prevention, and she already started to get into that, into detail, because what we want to do is leave people empowered with what you can do, not just give you some numbers, scare you, and then leave you with that. So what can we start to do to prevent heart disease in ourselves, in our communities, in our families, to optimize our heart health, not just for us, but for the people we care about. And you already started off by saying that 80 to 90% of these risk factors or for heart disease are preventable by lifestyle.
Sure.
So let's go into what we can do to start preventing heart disease using our framework.
Yeah. So you think about it, right? And there are things that you can actually do on your own. You don't have to spend money to do these things, right? Getting enough sleep is very important. Your sleep hygiene has to be very important. Introducing healthy habits in terms of when you shopping in a healthy way, introducing your family to healthy foods, fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, and complex sugars. When we talk about complex sugars, we're talking about sugars you get from fruits, right? Versus having added sugars. Over 70% of foods you find in stores have added sugars in them. So you have to become such an educated shopper when you're out there. Otherwise, you stand the risk of buying things. It's called syrup, but it's not syrup. It's sugar. It just got fructose all over it. If you want syrup, you want to go for maple, right? And it's slightly more expensive, but without added sugars in it, right? So you're doing things like getting your sleep, getting good sleep hygiene, exercising appropriately. If you bike, if you run, if you dance, that kind of thing. And also your tribe is very important. Your mental health is super important to mitigate heart disease. Oftentimes we forget that stress is huge. And stress presents its way in so many different ways. You may go through a bunch of blood work and nothing is seen, but a lot of it is in our head, stress and what it does in our mind, and presents heart disease in the different ways in our bodies, right?
Absolutely, because the hormones and the activation that happens with chronic stress is bad for our heart, the inflammation that comes with that. And so, our producer put up the EMTS. So if you start to gather some of the things she's talked about eating and nutrition is kind of the biggest part. The added sugar, the trans fat, which a lot of fast food is baked in. The trans fat is very dangerous for our heart and for our blood vessels. And sometimes we don't think of that. Heart disease and stroke, they're all kind of just a different organ, the same blockages that are happening. So nutrition, we talked about E. The M, sometimes people think about, I just need to get up and hit the gym and do a lot of heavy weights. Consistency in exercise.
That's all it is, to be consistent, right? You don't need to lift weights like going to the Olympics. No, you don't need any of that. You just need to be able to move. And I know that, I know we already know that, being sedentary, you're more likely than even obesity to die of heart disease if you live a sedentary lifestyle. So you've got to move. And I know today we're all on Zoom. Most people are home because of, COVID. You can actually sit and stand while you are for as much as you can, 5-10 minutes a day, and do that multiple times a day. You can walk in place. You can, whatever it takes to allow you to move. And think about it, moving comes in different forms, right? Because our bodies need different vitamins. Like you have vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K. So when it comes to movement, your body requires vitamin walking, vitamin running, vitamin sitting, vitamin standing, vitamin stretching, all that stuff. It's different kinds of vitamins and supplements your body gets from doing that.
Exercise.
And yeah, from exercise and the kind of hormones
such
released.
a powerful, if it was a drug,
yeah,
people would be lining up to buy it. And
exactly.
it's the most underused thing,
Yeah.
exercise in terms of what it does for stress, for sleep, for your everything, for digestion and all of that stuff. So exercise and,
Well done, Biola. Well done. We see you.
Just getting up, because you can do it. If we weren't on camera, we'd be up there doing sports too. And really important, if you're somebody who has been sedentary and you're sitting around, the worst thing you want to do is just get up and then do something. That's why doctors say, remember, sometimes you're joining the gym, they say you need to be cleared to do certain exercises.
Sure.
Because if you already have risk factors for heart disease, you don't know, you may have had a silent heart attack, you then get up and go do something you could actually have a heart attack because you didn't know that. That's why with the snowstorms and things like that, so the consistency, walking really helps and keeps your heart going. So we talked about the nutrition, the movement, the tribe, and then the S's. This time you talked about sleep, stress, and smoking cessation.
Yeah.
Smoking is a huge risk factor and in this situation.
And we call it a no-no. There is no, let me do one stick today. We can't, smoking is super dangerous for your health.
Yes.
And it's, and think about it. We can not just, the idea of heart disease, but all kinds of cancers that come from that, right? So we have to be very careful in terms of oftentimes we feel that if we just reduce the amount, no, it's just not a good thing at all. And we just have to,
so if you've never smoked, please don't start. And if you are a smoker, it's hard, it's addictive, get help. There's support with your primary care physician, a lot of hotlines and tips and things that have been set up to help you so you can quit smoking, because that's really important. It hardens your arteries and it doesn't get reactive. So when you need more oxygen delivered to your heart, the arteries are stiff with smoking, it doesn't do that. So again, using our framework, and if you've been following us, thank you, Sherry, the 30-minute power. It doesn't matter, indoor, no matter if it's snowing outside. Think about it. Nothing you do for your body is wasted.
Nothing.
Whether anybody's watching, whether or not you're tracking it, if you're doing stuff, I love it. Thank you. Keep it coming. Soluble fiber and berries.
Exactly.
Awesome. And you're full for long. So keep doing that and knowing that no matter what happens, you can continue to improve your heart. Somebody had asked about blood pressure medicine. There was a question that came up around why should you take blood pressure medicine if your blood pressure is normal? A lot of it, I saw that, Felicia. Thank you for that question. So obviously for you to be prescribed blood pressure medication, it must have been high at some point.
Right.
And that's why the goal is to now get it to normal. So you need to continue to work with your primary care physician to see when you've met your goal, what are you making other changes in your lifestyle that have now changed since then? Or is the medication the only thing that's keeping your blood pressure normal? Because if there are risk factors with blood pressure and you haven't changed those, the blood pressure medicine is what's keeping it normal. And if you stop it, your blood pressure could go back up unless there are other things that have changed. So we're not recommending anyone just stop taking things. Work with your doctor. Sometimes they start to taper the dose lower and lower and see if your blood pressure stays maintained.
And just to add to that as well, thank you for that question. And the idea of lifestyle makes a huge difference. So in concert with what you're taking in terms of the medication, make sure you're adding a lot of exercise in there and share that with your primary care physician, how much exercise you're doing and what you're, because you change your nutrition, because there comes a time when we've worked with a lot of people who have had to come off their medication in concert with their doctor because they are now exercising quite a bit. So be in touch with your doctor, share what you're doing, and increase your exercise, enhance your nutrition. And there may be a time when you may have to
yes,
come off the medication.
We have had people do that, and that's why it's so important to. Thank you so much for the feedback. We're getting people walking, power walk, Zumba, multiple times.
Thanks, Kim.
It just says all the things you can do all the time for yourself to continue to enhance your body.
Yeah.
So
it's very important, and you can't have too much in terms of wellness and trying to enhance yourself. And this is not just for you. Try to share this with your family, your loved ones, your friends, because it's one of those things that are very contagious. If you feel good, you want everyone else to feel good, right?
Correct.
You want them to be healthy, and it's not just adding life to your years, but adding years to your life, so you can do both, right?
Yes,
so
right? I like that. So not just the quantity of life. So we talk about preventing death, but also what is the quality? So adding life to your years, not just years to your life, and you can do both.
You can do both.
Yes, that's it. Quality and quantity of life,
and
knowing that even if you already have heart disease, doesn't mean that all you need to do is pop a pill. Take your medications, but continue to work on your lifestyle. Get the support that you need. This month is Heart Health Month. There's a lot of support out there. If you haven't had your numbers checked, please do. Know your blood pressure, your blood glucose, your cholesterol, your body mass index, your waist circumference, right? These are all important risk factors for heart disease. And a lot of it, 80 to 90% preventable by lifestyle.
Yeah, think about
Let's do better for
80 to 90%, right?
Preventable
by lifestyle. You think about it, we spend about close to 4 billion on on medications and all that. But still, issues of chronic disease keeps going up every year, right? And so it's just we have to do better, right? Not just for ourselves, but for our families and friends.
I know, and I think all the excitement we're seeing. Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing, because when you do that, it's good for us to see that, but also you're inspiring other people watching this when they go back and watch it and saying, you know what, I don't have to join the gym. I've seen I can do Zumba in my house. I can do that. Sherry has been amazing. She says she's lost 60 pounds during this pandemic. She's no longer medically obese. Her A1C is down. All of this, by sharing this, you're inspiring somebody else who's thinking, can I do this? Yes, you can. And it's not just us saying this. You're hearing it.
Yeah, and we have about 3 minutes to go. No! This show was fast, but there was a question about smoking marijuana. So ask your physician, because people don't smoke marijuana for certain reasons, right? Sometimes it's, it has to do with mental health issues. It could be with cancer. Nausea. It could be with HIV. Who knows what condition that is? But please share that with your physician, because marijuana is not cigarette smoking, it's not tobacco. So just talk to your physician about that and get clarity around that.
Thank you. Yes, but the cigarettes, very clear data. Not just for heart disease, but for cancer and COPD, lung disease, oral health, everything. So smoking is a no-no. Get help if you need to get off cigarettes. There's a lot of assistance with medications, patches, psychotherapy, and things that can help you, because that's really important. So for my women out there, I know heart disease is a top cause of death, but people think about it for men. Only 1 in 10 women knew that is our first cause of death for women. So it's important to think about your heart health. Thank you so much, Renee. So as we're ending today, we just want to say, optimize your heart health, take small steps and be consistent. Avoid the junk food, avoid the trans fat, the added sugar, add more vegetables, more fruits into your diet, move more, get up,
cook more,
do squats, do all that, know your numbers, check with your PCP, and share this message with somebody else who needs to know. Every 2 minutes, some woman in the US has a heart attack. 1 out of 5 don't even know they have a heart attack.
And every 2 seconds around the world, somebody dies of heart attack. Think about it, over 80 million people. So, keep following us at tfal&chi on social media. You can consult with us, go to a website, you can book a free consultation. We love working with groups, one-on-one individuals. And we have so much passion about this. We want to share with you. So share this message with as many people as you can. Thank you for supporting us. We love you. See you again in a few weeks.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, producer Ellis. Our next show is on March 4. And visit our store at
Yeah.
tfal&chi.com.
You can buy these.
And know your numbers. All right. And get out there. We're getting out there to start exercising.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you again. Thanks for supporting us.
Take
See you
care.
again. Yeah.
Bye-bye.